And welcome to Nats Chat for Monday, April 29th, 2024. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. Mark Zuckerman is off for this installment of the show, but I am joined by the man who runs the show, Tim Shovers. The Nats have struggled against the Miami Marlins in recent seasons. You may have picked up on that. The Nats in the 2022 regular season went just 4-15 against the Marlins. The Nats in the 2023 regular season went just to 2-11 against the Marlins. But the Nats now have a chance to complete a 4-game sweep at the Marlins. The Nats won at the Marlins 12-9 on Sunday afternoon, as the Nats now won the first 3 games of this 4-game series, and the Nats in this game on Sunday afternoon overcame a 7-0 fourth inning deficit. Coming up later in the show is a Nats Chat podcast shout out. If you would like to send a shout out to someone that you care about, email Tim at natschatpodcast@gmail.com. So the Nats for this regular season now are 13-14. The Marlins for this regular season now are a major league worst 6-23. I'm a believer that multiple things can be true at the same time. So I would say the following about what happened with the Nats at the Marlins on Sunday afternoon. A, the Marlins are horrible. Okay, let's make that clear. But B, the Nats authored a very impressive comeback win. That was some performance by the Nats on Sunday.
Really was, Al. And I think most important to say is that, yes, the Marlins are horrible, and there's a horrible team in the NL East, and it's not the Washington Nationals. But yeah, the Marlins, I'll get to the comeback in a second. I don't know if the Marlins are going to win 50 games this year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the kind of season we're looking at for them. But more importantly for this podcast to the Nationals, incredible comeback. And even as disheartening as that first inning was, being down 6-0 and then 7-0, you knew in the back of your head, all right, well, the Marlins pitchers have to record 27 outs. And just like that, it was 7-5. And you knew it was a ball game. Once it was 7-5, I thought for sure the Nats are going to win. And sure enough, they pulled it off. And it's so great to see that this divisional matchup, I don't want to call it a rivalry, but for a few years, the Marlins owned the Nats. And on a dime this year, it looks like the roles are completely reversed. And now it's Washington's turn.
The Marlins owning the Nats the last 2 seasons never made much sense. I know that the Nats have not been very good the last 2 seasons, but it's not like the Marlins have been world beaters, and yet the Nats, for whatever reason, had such a hard time against the Marlins. And, we'll see what happens this season, but so far, the Nats are owning the fish of Miami. So in this game on Sunday afternoon, the Nats were down 6-0 at the end of the first inning. We're down 7-0 at the end of the second inning. But the Nats then scored 5 runs in the top of the fourth, 4 runs in the top of the fifth, a run in the top of the sixth, and 2 runs in the top of the eighth. The Nats for the game scored 12 runs, totaled 14 hits, worked 4 walks, went 7 for 17 with runners in scoring position. The 14 hits were made up of 2 home runs, 3 doubles, and 9 singles. There were a lot of offensive heroes for the Nats in this game, but I mentioned the Nats hitting 2 home runs. It was the same Nats player who hit those 2 home runs, Nick Senzel. This is becoming an interesting situation with Senzel. So he was the Nats starting designated hitter and number 2 batter on Sunday afternoon. He got moved up in the lineup. He went 2 for 6 with 2 home runs. He struck out twice, but he had 5 RBIs. Senzel in that Nats 5-run fourth, a 1-out, 2-run opposite field home run to right center field to cut the Nats deficit to 7-5. The homer went a projected 404 feet per Statcast. And Senzel in the Nats 4-run fifth, a 2-out, 3-run homer to left center field for a 9-7 Nats lead. That homer went a projected 411 feet per Statcast. Nick Senzel obviously has not played a ton this season due to having been on the 10-day injured list. He was on that retroactively March 27th to April 15th due to the fractured right thumb that he suffered while, remember, fielding a grounder prior to the Nats game on opening day on March 28th. But Senzel now in this regular season, 39 plate appearances, 5 home runs. He is second on the Nats in homers. He is slugging at .639. Now, his on-base percentage is just .263, but 5 of his 8 hits are home runs. He actually has been an impactful player for the Nats when he has played for them.
He's doing what we thought Joey Gallo would do. If he gets a hit, it's a home run. Yeah. When Senzel got hurt on opening day in warmups, I thought, I don't know if this guy's really ever going to play a game for the Nationals, because immediately they called up Lipscomb and started to think about the future. but he's come back, and as we're now almost at May 1, he has really made an impact here. He has been sort of one of the really solid Mike Rizzo veteran signings. And this is what you need if you're the Washington Nationals and you want to be at around 500 at this time of year. Guys like Senzel stepping up. And, he sure really has been hot this weekend, just when that's, could use it, playing an inferior opponent. And I love what I see here out of Senzel, and also the confidence by Davey to put him at the DH spot. I did not think that he'd be a DH at all when the season began. And here he is in late April, and he certainly delivered.
And as a number 2 batter, too. I mean, that really stood out to me. I mean, you look at the 4 significant, and I put significant in quotation marks because it's not like these guys are getting paid a ton, but the 4 significant veteran position player acquisitions from this past offseason for the Nats: Jesse Winker, Nick Senzel, Joey Gallo, Eddie Rosario. 2 are not working out so far in Gallo and Rosario, but 2, you got to say, are working out in what the Nats are getting from Senzel and Winker. Another major force for the Nats in this 12-9 come from behind win at the Marlins on Sunday afternoon: Jacob Young. This series is becoming the Jacob Young series. So Young on Sunday afternoon as the Nats starting center fielder and number 9 batter, 3 for 5 with an RBI double and 2 RBI singles, and he went 2 for 2 on stolen bases. He has become such a demon on the base pass. Him getting on first now basically automatically means that he's about to get to second base. But Young in the Nats 5-run fourth, a 1-out RBI double to left field to cut the Nats deficit to 7-1. Young in the Nats 4-run fifth, a 1-out opposite field RBI single to right field on an 0-2 pitch to cut the Nats deficit to 7-6. And he had to steal a second base. And Young in the Nats 2-run eighth, a 2-out RBI single to left field for a 12-9 Nats lead. And he had a steal of second base. So he drove in the Nats' first run of the game. He drove in the Nats' 12th run of the game. And he is killing the Marlins in this series. You go back to the 11-4 win at the Marlins on Saturday. Young in that game, starting center fielder, number 9 batter, 2 for 4 with 2 singles and a hit by pitch. He went 2 for 2 on stolen bases. He scored 4 runs. And Young in the 3-1 win at the Marlins on Friday night, starting center fielder, number 9 batter, 2 for 3 with 2 singles. He also was credited with an outfield assist. He is showing quite well for himself in this series.
He's become one of my favorite players on the team. I look forward to his at-bats because if he gets on base, he's a speed demon, like you mentioned. And, when I watch him play, I'm thinking I would love to see him in the lineup basically every single day in center field. I know he doesn't get on base a ton, but it's not like he can't hit at all. And the way he plays, I'm thinking, is this the everyday center fielder? Do we, have we moved on from Victor Robles with Jacob Young? Is what I think to myself every time I watch him play, and every time I watch him play well.
Robles has been out for a while. It was on April 4th that the Nats announced having recalled Young from AAA Rochester, and that was the corresponding roster move to placing Victor Robles on the 10-day injured list with a left hamstring strain. I don't think that Victor Robles has done enough to warrant just automatically getting his job back once he's back healthy. I mean, he's missed a lot of time the last 2 seasons due to injury. Now, when he has played the last 2 seasons, he actually has been a bit better than he had been in previous recent seasons. But, this is not some stranglehold to me that Robles should have that starting center fielder job. I mean, all of this is sort of, next to this reality of coming are James Wood, Dylan Cruz, etc. But we don't know when they're going to come. I mean, we're waiting on the promotion of James Wood. The Nats have had multiple opportunities in recent weeks to promote Wood. They're not doing that. So I don't know that we should necessarily be sitting on the edge of our seat for this anticipated elevation of Wood. I mean, I think it's going to come, but I don't know that it's going to come as soon as anybody wanted. And, Dylan Cruz has had kind of an up and down season. So, his promotion to the majors may not be as imminent as we initially thought. So, yeah, there's an opportunity here for Jacob Young, and he is becoming a real presence. And, I mentioned this on the last installment of the podcast, but he's your classic pest player. If you are an opposing team, you view Young as a pest. He's not some big power hitter. He's not some imposing presence in the batter's box, but he's impactful, and he's constantly doing things that chip away at what you're trying to do. You mentioned Trey Lipscomb. He's another young Nationals player who's having a good series. So Lipscomb on Sunday afternoon as the Nats starting third baseman and number 6 batter, 3 for 4 with 3 singles and a hit by pitch. Andy had a stolen base. Lipscomb in the Nats 5-run fourth, a leadoff opposite field single through the right side of the infield on an 0-2 pitch. Lipscomb in the Nats 4-run fifth, a leadoff hit by pitch. Lipscomb in the Nats 1-run sixth, a one-out single through the left side of the infield. Andy had to steal a second base on a double steal that also featured Ildemaro Vargas stealing home, and Lipscomb in the Nats 2-run eighth, a one-out opposite field single through the right side of the infield on a 1-2 pitch. You're maybe noticing a trend. There were a lot of Nationals plate appearances in this game in which the Nats batter was down 0-2, 1-2, and yet ended up generating a hit. So some really good hitting by the Nats in this game. And Lipscomb in this series, the 11-4 win on Saturday, starting third baseman, number 6 batter, 3 for 4 with a double, 2 singles, and a walk. The 3-1 win on Friday night, starting third baseman, number 8 batter, 2 for 4, 2 singles on 1-2 pitches. This series, the damage that is being inflicted by Nats batters, it's not coming as much from, like, say, a CJ Abrams or, you know, a Keibert Ruiz or somebody like that. It's a lot of Jacob Young. It's a lot of Trey Lipscomb.
Yeah, Lipscomb's been really good. The Swiss Army knife of the team. Another great game today. Loved his when he's stealing of home is the wrong term, but when he was able to reach home on the wild pitch, great slide in there by him. He just seems like a very reliable player. And, you know, Al, to your point about that it's not Abrams, that it's guys like Young and Lipscomb, you know, if I'm a hitter who's not a stud hitter and I'm facing the weakest pitching staff in the National League, this is where I'm on alert heading to the end of the batter's box every single night. So I don't know if that's a direct correlation there, but I'm not surprised to see that this is when, you know, the non-big hitters are feasting.
Yeah, and you are seeing a lot of guys who you might not necessarily anticipate eating in this series. Like, take, for instance, Alex Call, okay? Alex Call was the Nats starting right fielder and number 7 batter on Sunday afternoon. He got on base 5 times. Now, we've seen enough of Alex Call at the major league level in recent seasons to know he's not necessarily someone who's doing that on the regular, getting on base 5 times. Now, he was doing a pretty good job at AAA this season, so I do want to give him credit for that. But, like, Alex Call in this game was really good. 2 for 2, 2 singles, 2 walks, and a hit by pitch. Andy had an outfield assist. He had some very good plate appearances in this game. Top of the second, he drew a 2-out hit by pitch to conclude a 12-pitch plate appearance. Call in the Nats 5-run fourth, drew a walk despite having been down in the count at 1.02. Call in the Nats 2-run eighth, a 1-out full count single to shallow left center field despite having been down in the count at 1.12. A lot of good pieces of hitting from Nats batters in this game. And with Alex Call, he just came back to the majors, right? The Nats on Saturday afternoon announced having recalled Call from AAA Rochester. This has the corresponding roster move to placing Joey Gallo on the 10-day injured list with a left shoulder injury. So a terrific performance by Call on Sunday afternoon. I mean, we can keep going. Ildemaro Vargas, he is the Nats starting second baseman, number 5 batter, 2 for 5 with a double and a single. He did strike out twice, but he had that aforementioned steal of home on the double steal, gave the Nats a 10-7 lead in a 1-run 6 innings. So, you know, it's a funny deal with the Nats, right? They were struggling offensively. Davey Martinez was talking about it. I think you have to consider the opposition, as we've said, but it is good to see the Nats do this. And with where the Nats have been in recent seasons, they so often have been the team getting bullied. They so often have been the lowly team getting pushed around and punched around. And in this series, we're seeing the opposite. In this series, we're seeing the Nats do the bullying and the Nats do the punching. That is not a position that the Nats have been in recent years. And I actually do see that as a sign of progress. Like, yes, the Marlins are bad, but the fact that the Nats are doing what a good team should do against a really bad team, beating up on them, I think that says a lot. And I think that does speak to some progress being made by the Nats in this rebuild.
Definitely. And you know, you can't just act like, oh, it's you're playing the Marlins, everyone's going to sweep them. The Braves were in Miami a few weeks ago, and they were down to their last strike in the 9th inning, and they were about to lose the series, and then Marcell Ozuna hit a home run. So the Braves ended up taking the series, but they were that close to losing the series in Miami. So it's not a given. And also, one point to Alex Call, Al, I just want to say, you're familiar with the term a quad A player. I think Call is a 5A player. He's better than a AAA player. He's a major leaguer just by his fingernails. You don't blink if you see him on a major league roster. You don't blink if you see him on a AAA roster. But I don't think, I think he's above the quad A term. What do you think about that for a placement?
Yeah, I mean that's quite a level because like 4A is theoretical enough. 5A is like a thought process higher than 4A. So yeah, I mean he is someone who at times has had good stretches for the Nats in recent years, but like what always ends up happening is he plays for a while and he gets exposed, and we end up saying, yeah, I think we've kind of seen enough of Alex Gall here in terms of what exactly he is. So you need people like this who you can summon and who can be like competent, respectable, professional replacements. But, I think we know enough of him to know that this is kind of what he is. He's a bench guy. But, you need people like that. Not everyone on a roster is going to be a star. And you need pieces on which you can rely when other pieces, more key pieces, get injured. But look, he did a good job in this game on Sunday afternoon. Well, if you're wondering why the Nats were down 7-0 going into the fourth inning on Sunday afternoon, the answer would be two words: Patrick Corbin. Patrick Corbin happened on Sunday afternoon. He was the Nats starting pitcher in this game. He allowed 7 runs, 4 earned in 4 innings. He gave up 8 hits, which were comprised of a grand slam, 2 triples, 2 doubles, and 3 singles. He issued 2 walks. He did record 4 strikeouts, but he over his 4 innings threw a lot of pitches and a lot of balls. 93 pitches, 53 strikes, 40 balls. Corbin in the bottom of the first allowed 6 runs. Now, only 3 of the runs were earned thanks to a fielding error by shortstop C.J. Abrams, but Corbin in the inning gave up a grand slam, an RBI triple, another triple, an RBI single, and 2 other singles. Corbin, to the 4th batter he faced, gave up a one-out opposite field grand slam by Jazz Chisholm Jr. to left center field for a 4-0 Marlins lead. Look, I'll say this about Corbin. He did then settle down to where he was able to give the Nats a scoreless bottom of the 3rd and a scoreless bottom of the 4th. And so at least he was able to do that. And then the bullpen came in and did a pretty good job. We'll get to that momentarily. But that first inning was so reminiscent of so many other blow-up starts by Patrick Corbin in recent years. And I wonder if that was any other starting pitcher, if Davey Martinez would have left him out there. The Nats are in this tricky spot here where they don't have a scheduled off day until now this coming Monday. The Nats will actually have 2 off days in a 4-day stretch. We'll have an off day on Monday, May 6th, and then another one on Thursday, May 9th. But until then, the Nats have a game scheduled for every day. The final game of the 4-game series at the Marlins on Monday, then a 3-game series at the Texas Rangers Tuesday through Thursday, then a 3-game series against the Toronto Blue Jays at Nationals Park. So perhaps that led to Davey also perhaps that also was a factor in Davey keeping Corbin in the game. But man, that bottom of the first was rough.
Real rough, but also not surprising, right? I mean, we've gotten used to this. We've seen this. We've had these Corbin conversations a million times. Doesn't get help from his defense early on. That certainly hurt. And Corbin needs everything to go his way. But let me ask you this, Al. Fast forward with me a little bit. It's July 1st, okay? July 1st, 2024. Cade Cavalli is up. He's back. He's pitching in the major leagues. Josiah Gray, knock on all the wood, he's back in the major leagues. Mackenzie Gore, he's moving along. Jake Irvin moving along. Who knows either way with Trevor Williams? Who knows what's going on with Jackson Rutledge? Who knows what's going on with Mitchell Parker? Where I'm going with this is, are we just a month or so away from maybe not having Corbin in the rotation anymore? Because at a certain point, come November 1st, this contract is over. And November 1st, 2024 is not some off in the future thing. It's within a few months now. I mean, is there any hope for no more Corbin starts? Help me here out.
Oh, I think we're getting close. I think what's tough is, like you just outlined all the names in terms of why Corbin might not be in the rotation for the duration of this season. But there are question marks there, right? The health of Josiah Gray has become a question mark. When Jackson Rutledge will be promoted back to the majors is a question mark. How Cade Cavalli does, how he is feeling in his comeback from Tommy John surgery is a question mark. Does Mitchell Parker continue to pitch well? That's a question mark. And then there's the perpetual question mark of, does anyone else get hurt? I mean, God forbid a Mackenzie Gore or Jake Irvin, or with the way he's pitching, a Trevor Williams gets hurt. So, like, the one thing that Corbin does bring to the table in terms of a positive these days is his durability. Like, he has been durable. He gives the Nats innings. And so, if all of those guys who you just mentioned are healthy and doing well, then Corbin's out of the rotation, no questions asked. But that's an if, that all of those guys are going to be healthy and doing well. I certainly hope that we do have Corbin out of the rotation sooner rather than later. I mean, the numbers on this season are so bad. And, keep this in mind. He was coming off a nice outing. Corbin in the Nats 4-1 loss to the Los Angeles Dodgers at Dazzles Park last Tuesday evening, 5 1/3 scoreless innings. He did a good job in that game. But even with that game, Corbin off what happened on Sunday afternoon at the Marlins. He, for this regular season, 6 starts, ERA of 6.82, a whip of 1.89. I mean, that's awful. That's not what any team should be putting up with in a major league rotation. So, yeah, the clock is ticking down. There's no doubt about that. It's just a question of, okay, are these other guys going to be good to go? But the dream scenario for this Nats rotation this season, without question, is we get to the point at which it is Josiah Gray, Mackenzie Gore, Jake Irvin, say Cade Cavalli, Jackson Rutledge. Maybe Mitchell Parker's in there instead of Rutledge. I don't know. But you get the idea that all 5 guys in the rotation, and look, maybe it's a 6-man rotation, but every pitcher in the Nats rotation is a young potential building block. Like, that's what you want. The days of the Corbins need to be over, and we are getting there. But as we saw on Sunday afternoon, we're not there yet.
No, we are not. Okay, the next time that the Nats play the Marlins, let's put it in these terms. They play the Marlins June 14th in D.C., a weekend series. The next time, though, they return to Miami will be September 3rd. I still think Corbin's in the rotation because of this, that, or the other on June 14th. But it is my goal. It should be this podcast goal, every listener's goal, even though we have zero control over the situation, that come September 3rd, when the Nats go back to Miami, that Patrick Corbin is no longer in the starting rotation. Let's get there, Nats Nation.
Absolutely. Let's have the liberation by then, and perhaps sooner. I mean, having this done by the All-Star break, I don't think is out of the question, but it's got to get done, no doubt. So Corbin had a rough game. Like I said, he did end it with a couple of scoreless innings, so that did help. That did help to hold down the Marlins for the Nats to make the comeback. But credit to the Nats bullpen, which really did allow for the Nats to author this come-from-behind win. 4 Nats relievers combined to allow 2 runs in 5 innings. Derek Law, 2 scoreless innings, 3 strikeouts. Jordan Weems did struggle. He allowed 2 runs in a third of an inning. He in the bottom of the 7th faced 4 batters, but got just 1 out. Weems issued a leadoff 5-pitch walk at Jazz Chisholm Jr. Weems issued a leadoff 5-pitch walk at Jazz Chisholm Jr. Gave up an opposite field RBI double by Tim Anderson to right field on an 0-2 pitch to cut the Nats lead to 10-8, and gave up a pinch 1-out RBI single by Jesus Sanchez through the right side of the infield to cut the Nats lead to 10-9. But Hunter Harvey was good, 1 2/3 scoreless and hitless innings. Really good work by him. And Kyle Finnegan tossed a scoreless and hitless bottom of the 9th for the save. So, as is almost always the case when a team has a big comeback win, the bullpen is a part of it, because the bullpen allows for the comeback to be made. And, really after the nightmare of the bottom of the first, the Nats pitching in this game really wasn't that bad. But the pen, especially Law, Harvey, and Finnegan, really came through in this game.
Hats off to Hunter Harvey getting the 5-out hold, really rescuing Weems there, keeping the lead intact. It was 10-9, and it allowed the Nats to get insurance from there. Kyle Finnegan, great job getting the save. And I got to say, Al, I think I might be the first person to put these two people in the same sentence. But is Derek Law the new Wander Suero? Seems like he pitches every single day.
He does. And, in this series, he's actually looked quite good off having not looked so good in other outings. So there is a Wander Suero component to the nature of Derek Law. I don't think you're wrong in saying that. It's an adventure with a lot of these guys over the course of multiple weeks. Sometimes they look good, sometimes they don't. Like Weems, at times it looked very good. Weems on Sunday afternoon did not look good. Like I just said with Law, he at times does not look so good, but he lately has looked good. But the bullpen, I think, by and large, lately has done a pretty good job. You're going to have bad outings from every bullpen. So you really have to look at it in terms of a larger sample size. And, you say, okay, where are we in the season? Where are we, say, over, I don't know, a 3-week stretch, a 4-week stretch? I think the Nats, for the most part, are getting pretty good work from their bullpen. So I want to give them credit for that, because they were certainly a part of this comeback win on Sunday afternoon. And the Nats now have an opportunity for a 4-game road sweep, albeit at the Marlins, who again are woeful. Like if you're watching these games, it really is something with the Marlins. You see defensive plays that aren't made. You see wild pitches. You see hit by pitches. How many hit by pitches have the Nats taken so far in this series? So it is pretty comical to see what the Marlins, who I feel like are perpetually rebuilding. It's an odd deal, right? Because it's a franchise that's only been around about 30 years, has the 2 World Series championships, yes, 97 and 2003. But, at this point, 2003 is quite a ways ago. And it feels like every year we hear, oh, the Marlins have these young players. Oh, the Marlins might be a team on the rise. And like every year they're bad. And this year they are especially bad. And the Nats are doing a really good job in this series so far.
Yeah, you're right about that. They are perpetually rebuilding. They missed a cycle, unfortunately, because of the tragedy with Jose Fernandez that really, spun them out for a few years there. Looked like they bounced back last year. They made the playoffs. They were in October of last year. This franchise was in the playoffs, but so many pitcher injuries, including Sandy Alcantara, and they're done. I mean, I said it earlier. I really don't think they're going to get 50 wins. It'll be interesting to see who's worse this year, them or the White Sox. We have 2 very, very bad teams. The Oakland Athletics will not be the worst team in baseball this year.
No. Well, the A's won 2 or 3 against the Nats. The A's just won 2 or 3 at the Orioles. So, yeah, maybe the A's aren't as bad as we thought. The other thing with the Marlins, too, is look at all of the management changes that the Marlins have had. And that's always a sign of a bad organization. When you are cycling through general managers and managers, as the Marlins have in recent years, Derek Jeter comes and goes. The general manager who the Marlins recently had, Kim Ng, comes and goes. You see that's a sign of an organization that is not exactly firing on all cylinders. And so, that's a Miami problem. But the Nats, like we said, in position for the 4-game sweep. Game 4 for the Nats at the Marlins on Monday evening at 6:40. Jake Irvin will be the Nats starting pitcher. We have a shout out to deliver. This is from Sarah Mahoney to her son, Jack. Jack is my best Nats buddy. I cherish all of our Nats memories together, particularly watching the team in the World Series, changing our seats for luck, knocking on wood, wearing the same outfits, turning our hats inside out, and running around the house like crazy during late-night home runs, particularly Howie Kendrick's 10th inning grand slam when the rest of the family was trying to sleep. Happy birthday, Jack. Here's to many more Nats victories to cheer together. We appreciate that from Sarah. We say happy birthday, Jack. Are you superstitious with baseball the way that Sarah and Jack are with the Nats?
I'm not superstitious at all, but I give a lot of respect to that, and I love the memories that she laid out there. And yeah, the Howie Kendrick home run, I forget what exact time it came out, but it was a late night game in Los Angeles. So I'm sure there are a lot of Nats fans who are listening that were thinking, yeah, that was a late one. That was a tough morning to wake up from afterwards. But happy birthday, Jack. We appreciate it.
Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website we invite you to check out, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can get yourself a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. We now are on YouTube. We invite you to check that out. Just search Nats Chat Podcast. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Tim Shovers, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.